Right now, as you watch this, there are people living in countries where stepping outside their front door is a gamble with their life. These are the 10 most dangerous countries on Earth. Ranked using the 2026 Global Peace Index, the Numbeo Crime Index, and U.S. State Department travel advisories. This isn't an opinion, this is data. Number 10. Venezuela. 10 years ago, Venezuela was the richest country in South America. It sat on the world's largest proven oil reserves. Today, it has one of the highest crime rates on the planet. Its currency collapsed so completely that people use banknotes as napkins because they were worth less than the paper they were printed on. Over 7 million Venezuelans have fled the country, one of the largest displacement crises in the world outside of active war zones. Gangs control entire districts of Caracas. Kidnapping for ransom is so common, it has its own industry. The Numbeo Crime Index gives Venezuela a score of 83.7 out of 100. Number 9. Haiti. Haiti is the only country in the Western Hemisphere where armed gangs literally control the capital city. As of 2026, criminal gangs control over 80% of Port-au-Prince, the capital, not the outskirts. The capital. The government operates from behind blast walls. The police are outgunned and outmanned. The murder rate is among the highest in the world. There is no functioning healthcare system. Schools are closed. Over 5 million people, nearly half the population, face acute food insecurity. The country has been through 17 coups or attempted coups since independence. The 2010 earthquake killed over 300,000 people, and since then, it has never recovered. Number 8. North Korea. North Korea is not dangerous in the way most countries on this list are dangerous. There is no war. There is very little crime, because every aspect of life is controlled by the state. What makes North Korea one of the most dangerous countries on Earth is what its government does to its own people. 26 million citizens live in total information isolation. They cannot access the internet. They cannot leave. Those who try to escape and are caught are sent to gulags, political prison camps, where an estimated 200,000 people are held in conditions that human rights investigators have compared to Nazi concentration camps. Citizens are executed publicly for watching foreign films. The leader's word is law, and the law applies to everything. Number 7. Myanmar. February 1, 2021. The military of Myanmar seized power in a coup, overthrowing the democratically elected government. What followed was brutal. Pro-democracy protesters were shot in the streets. Ethnic minorities, particularly the Rohingya Muslim population, faced what the United Nations officially classified as genocide. Over 1 million Rohingya had already fled to Bangladesh. Since the coup, over 2 million more people have been displaced internally. The civil war between the military and resistance forces has leveled entire villages. Airstrikes hit civilian areas. The country that once had a Nobel Peace Prize winner as its leader, Aung San Suu Kyi, now has her imprisoned. The U.S. State Department maintains a Level 4 Do Not Travel advisory for Myanmar. Number 6. South Sudan. South Sudan is the world's newest country. It gained independence from Sudan in 2011, after the longest civil war in African history. The world celebrated. It lasted 2 years before its own civil war began. Since then, South Sudan has barely functioned as a state. Armed factions fight over territory. Ethnic violence kills communities. Over 4 million people, out of a population of 12 million, have been displaced. Child soldiers are routinely recruited by armed groups. Famine is a constant reality for millions. 76% of the population lives on less than $2 per day, and the country sits on massive oil reserves that fund the conflict rather than the people. Number 5. Somalia. Somalia has not had a functioning national government since 1991, over 30 years. It is the definition of a failed state. The Islamist militant group Al-Shabaab controls large areas of the country, carries out regular bombings in the capital Mogadishu, and collects its own taxes from the territory it controls. Somalia is also the world's most active piracy zone. Cargo ships in the Gulf of Aden and Indian Ocean have been hijacked for ransom for decades. Over 3 million people are internally displaced. Access to clean water in a country on the Indian Ocean is a crisis for millions. And Al-Shabaab has been designated a terrorist organization by the United States, the European Union, and the United Nations. Number 4. Sudan. April 15th, 2023. Sudan. Two military factions, the Sudanese Armed Forces and the Rapid Support Forces, went to war with each other, not in a remote jungle. In Khartoum, the capital city, a city of 6 million people, apartment buildings became sniper positions, hospitals were bombed, markets were shelled. Over 150,000 people have been killed since the war began. 10 million have been displaced, making it the largest displacement crisis on Earth right now, surpassing even Ukraine. The United Nations has described the humanitarian situation in Sudan as one of the worst in human history. And the war is still ongoing as you watch this. Number 3. Syria. 2011. The Arab Spring. Syrians took to the streets asking for democratic reform. The government's response was to shoot them. What followed became one of the defining catastrophes of the 21st century. 13 years of civil war. Over 500,000 people killed. More than half the country's population, 12 million people, displaced. Cities that were among the oldest in human history, Damascus, Aleppo, reduced to rubble. Chemical weapons were used on civilian populations. The United Nations documented war crimes on all sides. And even after the collapse of ISIS and the relative stabilization of front lines, Syria remains fractured, partially occupied by foreign forces from multiple countries, and fundamentally unsafe for most of its population to return to. Number 2. Ukraine. February 24th, 2022. Russia launched the largest land invasion in Europe since World War II. Cities that had been peaceful European capitals became front lines overnight. Kharkiv, Ukraine's second-largest city with 1.4 million people, was shelled daily. Mariupol was reduced to rubble through siege warfare. Bucha became a name synonymous with war crimes after Russian forces withdrew, leaving evidence of mass executions of civilians. Over 6 million Ukrainians fled the country. Millions more were internally displaced. The 2025 Global Peace Index ranked Ukraine as the second least peaceful country on Earth. And the war continues with no end in sight. This is happening right now, in Europe. Number 1. Afghanistan. August 15th, 2021. The Taliban entered Kabul. 20 years of international effort, the longest war in American history, ended in hours. What followed was the rapid dismantling of every right that had been built in those 20 years. Women were banned from school above grade 6, then banned from universities entirely, then banned from working, then banned from appearing in public without a male guardian, then banned from speaking loudly in the presence of men, banned from going to parks, banned from beauty salons. 20 million people, half the country, face acute food insecurity. The economy collapsed by 30% in 1 year. Afghanistan has been the least peaceful country in the world for 6 consecutive years on the Global Peace Index. But here is the detail that separates Afghanistan from every other country on this list. In every other country, danger comes from conflict, crime, or disorder. In Afghanistan, the danger is the government itself. A government that controls women's bodies, women's voices, and women's futures with the force of law. The Taliban aren't a threat to Afghanistan's government. They are Afghanistan's government. Behind every ranking on this list is a human being who didn't choose to be born there.